I wish I could say that this video was fun for me, but it's not, because I've had this list ready to go for 2 weeks and I keep forgetting things, adding things, taking away things. I overthink it when it comes to these big roundups, but for today's video, I am going to be sharing with you the best makeup of 2025. The majority of these are new to me products that I discovered this year, or products that I simply just could not put down. And I'm somebody who has tried hundreds of makeup products this year, and of those hundreds that I've tried, it has been narrowed down to these products being the best of the best. I stand by these. These make my skin, my makeup look fabulous. These are the keys to a successful makeup day. And I mean, I'm looking at these. I would take you into the store and I would tell you to purchase these if you were looking for some new products. So best of the best out of the hundreds that I've tried. Let's get into it. First section we're starting off with is complexion. We'll start off with our primers. I have 2. So the first one that I tried this year that I absolutely loved was the One Size B12 Base Thinner Vitamin Pearl Serum. So this you can use alone all over the skin. You can mix it in your foundation to thin it out, or you can put it on top. I guess I wouldn't do it that way, but it is essentially made to be mixed into your foundation or as a serum on its own. It leaves the prettiest golden pearl glow. As somebody who has dry skin, this is very hydrating. It doesn't feel too heavy on the skin, and it's actually impactful. So when you put it on the skin and put your foundation over top, this does make the foundation more hydrating and a little bit more glowy. And then even better than that, when you mix it into foundation, it actually has that glowy, hydrating impact on the foundation as well. It doesn't get lost in the foundation like a lot of other products that have similar claims. It's just a really high quality product that does exactly what it says. And as somebody with dry skin, I think this is gorgeous. It adds so much rejuvenation to my skin, and the glow is gorgeous. Like, stunning, impeccable, pearly, golden. I love it. This next one I think is great for mature skin because not only is it hydrating, but it's also very, very smoothing. But of course for any skin as well. If it works for mature skin, it will work for everybody. But this is the Jane Iredale Smooth Affair Brightening Face Primer. So this is the best of both worlds, with it being both hydrating and smoothing. It applies like silk on the skin, and when you run your finger over your skin, it's smooth like butter, but it doesn't make the foundation or anything run or move either. And I just think it creates the perfect hydrated, smooth canvas prior to applying foundation. So this was definitely a gem that I discovered this year that I could not stop putting down. Okay, big category, foundations. I actually did try and fall in love with a good number of foundations this year, so much so that I actually had to take some away because I was just doing too much for this video. I had to narrow it down. So the first one that I have is actually from the drugstore, but you wouldn't even be able to tell. That's how good it is. This is the Maybelline Superstay Lumi Matte Foundation. I would say it has more of a natural matte finish, but it's extremely lightweight on the skin and has a very smooth finish. I think it gives about a lighter side of medium coverage, but you can build it up a little bit. It wears really well because of its more matte nature, but it doesn't dry out the skin because it has more of that natural finish. So you're not going to get a glow from this, even though the name of it is Lumi Matte, but it's not completely flat, and it just perfects the skin like so many of my favorite luxury and high-end foundations. I think Maybelline killed it with this. You can barely feel it on the skin, and it lasts all day without getting crepey or creasy. It's really reliable, an awesome pick from the drugstore. And I think it's the only drugstore foundation that I have in today's video, so it's the best, if you ask me, that launched this year. Also fell in love this year with the Jane Iredale Skin Tuition Radiance Boosting Liquid Foundation. This is extremely hydrating on the skin. It's a lot thicker than the Maybelline, but it doesn't look thicker, but it definitely gives a plumpness to the skin due to the creamier consistency of it, and it's very, very hydrating. It has those really great skincare based ingredients as well, and I think it makes the skin look really smooth. I think one of the main complaints people might have about this is that it is a bit thick, but I like that. I think it makes the foundation much more hydrating to the skin, which if you have a dry skin type, it's going to hydrate throughout the day. So if you want something that's very skin-like, but quite perfecting as well. That's actually going to give you some coverage. I think you'll really enjoy this. So I tend to go for this when I want a more full coverage look, but I'm feeling a little bit more dry. This one will do it for me. And the finish of it, I feel like, is very, very skin-like as well. Not lightweight skin-like, but like perfected, creamy, hydrating skin-like. You know what I mean? Okay, so this one I think, if I had to give the #1 award to, it would be this one. And you know where we're going with this if you've watched my videos, which, by the way, if you are a regular viewer of mine, this video is not full of surprises. I'm not coming out of nowhere with these favorites. I've talked about and recommended these plenty because I stand by these favorites. So I've talked about the High Glam Foundation from Natasha Denona so much. It's full coverage, it's hydrating, it's not flat, but it's not too glowy. It's that perfect in-between of everything that I want from a foundation. If you were a fan of the High Glam concealer like I was years prior, this is the foundation version of that. It is exactly what I wanted, and it is my favorite launch this year. It also looks so smooth and milky and creamy on the skin. It does remind me a lot of the Jane Iredale, but honestly, a little better, a little bit more elevated, but they are quite similar. So yeah, she killed it. This launch from Natasha Denona is the #1 foundation I'm recommending this year if I had to pick one. But I am a woman who is not a minimalist, as you know. I like to have options, hence why I have all of these different base products to share with you guys today. But like, if you had to pick one, if you're looking for something a little bit more lighter weight, more skin tint style, since that continues to be a very popular style of complexion product, I fell in love this year with the Dr. Jart BB Premium Beauty Balm. I have not heard anybody really talk about this that much, but this is the definition of blending into the skin like butter. So this does give a lighter coverage. It gives more coverage than just a tint, I will say that, but it's very lightweight, very natural. Again, I'm always looking for hydration because I do have a dry skin type, and it just blends into the skin like milk pretty much, and it makes my skin look really soft and smooth. I find with a lot of skin tint style products, sometimes they can dry my skin out with all of the added ingredients, but something about this just blends into the skin like it was meant to be, like they are one, and it looks really, really natural, but gives just a little bit more of a bump on a coverage than the classic skin tint. So I definitely recommend this. This is gorgeous and not talked about enough. Even by me, I feel like I didn't do enough justice talking about it because it was an off-camera kind of situation that I was using all the time, where I knew I wanted lighter coverage, so I would go for that, because typically on camera I prefer a little bit of fuller coverage since you're like staring at me in 4K, you know? We need a little bit more coverage on those occasions. But off camera, that's been my favorite skin tint all year. 2 new concealers have entered my regular rotation this year. The first one we'll start off with is Westman Atelier's Vital Skincare Concealer. This is a thicker concealer. It gives full coverage. It's extremely creamy and extremely hydrating, but actually surprisingly doesn't sink into the fine lines, doesn't get too creasy, and I think if you have hollowed out under eyes, you will really enjoy this because the thickness of this really does fill in those hollow under eyes. And normally I find with the consistency of this concealer, it does have a lot of body to it that you need to be careful, because then it will look a little bit thick and crepey and go into the fine lines. Not this one. It stays put while remaining hydrating, especially when you set it with a good loose under eye setting powder. And I just love how much coverage you get from this as well, especially when I notice I do have an extra bit of darkness here in the inner corner. A lot of people do. This covers it with no issues, no color correction needed here. So if you are looking for something that's thick, hydrating, but isn't going to run everywhere, I think you will enjoy this one. And then the other concealer that I discovered this year that just is incredible, it's the MAC Studio Radiance Luminous Lift Concealer. This gives about a medium coverage, and this is very, I'm trying to describe it. It's thinner, a lot thinner and a lot silkier than the Westman Atelier, but it still gives a good medium coverage and it's quite hydrating as well. You can spread it pretty far, unlike the Westman Atelier, which is thicker, but I really like this one as well because it is, again, very hydrating. That's what I'm looking for, but just because it's hydrating doesn't mean it's not going to last a long time. This one sets down beautifully with powder and just looks nice and soft all over the under eyes. It's one of those concealers where it's so beautiful and rich and hydrating, you want to put it all over the skin. So I mean, I know they do have the Studio Radiance foundation already, but it doesn't hold a candle to the actual concealer. There's something that's extra juicy and hydrating about this concealer. It is incredible. Now, of course, to get our makeup to stay, to get our base to stay, we need to talk powders. I am very, very picky when it comes to the powder category because I do have dry skin, but I do like to be poreless and I like a powder. So I need a powder that's going to work for me. I think, you know, as beautiful as the skin can be without setting, I want my pores to disappear, right? And there's a fine line between that and looking cakey and powdery. So these are powders that are just phenomenal. And it's very hard to become a new powder in my rotation because I am so picky. I stick to my tried and trues. That's one category where I have to say I don't like too many options, but I discovered the best setting powder for the under eyes. This is the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Under Eye Setting Powder. It's in this little tiny thingy. This is a little bit more slippery and a little lighter weight than the original Laura Mercier powder, and I'm gonna link down below the brush. You have to get a paddle style brush like this, synthetic fiber. It doesn't need to be this, but this one is really one that I recommend. They work together. This is the camouflage powder brush, but because this is a little bit more fine and silky, when you put this brush in and just pat it on the under eyes, it sets the concealer in place without adding any extra volume for the concealer to crease up. It literally just locks it in, smooths it with the thinnest layer, hence the brush. It helps get that layer of powder really, really thin, and it makes my under eyes look airbrush, and it definitely extends the wear of any concealer I use so that the concealer doesn't crease prematurely. So it's the best under eye setting powder I've ever used. I mean, you know I love my Huda Beauty and those favorites as well, but this is more lightweight, which I think is more appropriate for some of the concealers that I use. So if I know I have a concealer that's not maybe the longest wearing, but I like the way it looks on the under eyes, that's when I will reach for this Laura Mercier because I know it's going to give it its best wear. And then pressed powders, there's a couple that I fell in love with this year. The first one is from Givenchy. This is the Prism Libre 4-color pressed powder. So the one I have right now is Satin Blanc. I also have their rose one. So this does not have glitter, don't worry. They have one of the best loose setting powders, or they had one of the best loose setting powders on the market, and they reformulated it and there was glitter, and honestly it was the biggest mistake they could have made. However, for some reason when they came out with the pressed powder version of it, this doesn't have glitter and it is very reminiscent of that original loose setting powder formula without the glitters. It is pressed though, so it's not going to be as blurring and fill in the pores quite as easily as a loose powder could, but it doesn't matter because it really does have some amazing blurring and brightening properties to it. So at the end of setting my makeup, this just is that final lock in place and blurring of the pores that I need without having to get messy or too thick of a layer with a loose powder. So if you liked the OG loose setting powder, it's not as good, but it is quite close. They definitely, like, for some reason they brought it back with this. But we need the loose, do we not? And then one that is even more blurring, I would say, this one is a little bit more perfecting because it has some coverage as well, is the Jane Iredale Mineral Pressed Powder. So this one can also be used as a powder foundation, and that is one of my biggest makeup secrets. If you want a poreless, perfected look, you don't mind some powder, set with a powder foundation because that, for some reason, just smooths the skin like no other. So that's why I love this one. This one isn't like a full coverage powder foundation though, but it gives a lot more coverage than what the Givenchy powder is going to give. And every time I use this, to set my foundation, my skin looks super duper flawless. So the first time that I fell in love with this powder was I got my makeup done by a Jane Iredale makeup artist, and I'd used all the products before, but for some reason when she did it, my skin looked flawless, and I was like, what did you use? And she was telling me how she used the foundation I just mentioned and set with this, and I was like, oh wait, I haven't been setting with this all over. And that was the secret to the poreless skin. It was this powder. Super duper incredible. Extremely blurring, and just like gives that full coverage, locked in, perfect glam look if you set with that. So I'm unsure of what I would categorize these powders as, but I'm just gonna mention they are one of the best affordable, they're not that affordable, but affordable brand launches. I mean, these are better than what you can get from even luxury, I would say. I've been talking about these a lot recently because I want to scream it from the rooftops how good these are. These are the Morphe Soft Glow Veil. They are Hourglass's sister, I would say. They're not identical to my beloved Hourglass powders, but I think them being so closely related is why I love them so much. They are not even near the price point of Hourglass. That said, don't pick these up expecting them to be exactly like Hourglass, but they definitely have a very similar end goal. So these are just like a soft sheer powder that has a little bit of pearl to it. It's not going to give you flecks of glitter or shimmer. It's just a pearly glow. Now these are different from the Hourglass in that they have a little bit more pigment to them, so that also adds to the versatility of what you can do with them. I have 3 different shades that I use today. So I use Golden Hour, the deepest powder, as bronzer. It's also really beautiful and soft that you can set your cream or liquid bronzer with this. And then I will use the Sunrise shade all over like I would a regular Hourglass ambient lighting powder. This has more pigment, more pearl to it, so it is a little bit more shocking. The Hourglass I think is more natural, so you can be a bit more heavy-handed, but if you use a soft brush, you can get a similar effect of just giving that overall pearly glow all over the skin. And then I'll use Dawn as a very natural highlight. I just love the pearly glow that these give. Depending on the brushes you use, depends on how much you can get out of it. But I mean, these are so high quality. The best thing Morphe has launched in years. Incredible, competitive with luxury price points. The quality, like if there's one thing you need to get from this video, it's these. They are just shockingly amazing. Bronzing category, so I have a liquid and a powder option. I mentioned both of these in a recent video, so I'm going to go through these quickly. But this year, Rare Beauty launched their liquid contour. I picked up the shade Mellow. Super easy to use. Love the tone of this. It's just a liquid contour, not too warm, not too cool toned, and it blends out exactly how you would want it to. It doesn't get splotchy or patchy. It meshes really well with any base that you have underneath. I couldn't ask for anything more when it comes from a liquid bronzer, so that's that. I've just used it a lot. And then for powder bronzer, Hung Van Go launched his beauty brand overall, and he launched this soft blurring bronzer, and it is hard to be unique when it comes to a powder bronzer. They're all like powders, and these labs, they do a really good job of creating good formulas nowadays, but this one has that special little extra oomph that I think makes it a little bit more unique than a lot of the other powder bronzers out there in the market, because this one I do find to be very blurring. It's very soft and it's sheer but buildable. It's not super duper sheer, but I didn't get as much pigment from this as I had initially expected, which I actually found to be really beautiful and soft on the skin, but it did easily build up, and then it was very blurry, which I thought was very unique. So I feel like with a product like this, it is so difficult to be unique or stand out, but for some reason this one did. It just had that extra special quality to it. Okay, blush. This was another category that I had to take some products out of because I just had too many recommendations, but blush was easily one of the biggest categories to launch this year, but I've settled with 2 liquid cream, 2 powder formulas. So the first one that I have, I think, is the most unique. Again, Blushes, I feel like, is one of those product categories where there's only so many variances. So it's like a lot of them perform the same and a lot of them are really, really good. But this is actually unique for MAC. These are the Strobe Beam liquid blushes, and I don't have another liquid blush that are quite like these. They're very thin and watery, but they apply beautifully over the cheeks like watercolor. They have that effect and they have the prettiest beam to them. So there is a highlighting aspect to it, but it's not like wham bam highlight emphasize texture. It's just a little bit of a shift that's not too much, and I love the way that these melt into the skin. These are hard to over apply, though there are some shades that you can get a lot of pigment with these, but also this is a beautiful formula with options for very, very fair skin tones as well. If you want a blush that's pearly, that's glossy, glowy, but is like actually unique, I think you will really like these. They're a very special product. MAC did a great job with that. And then the other cream liquid product that I have, it's more putty, but Rare Beauty came out with their matte bouncy blushes, and these are definitely K-Beauty inspired formulated style of product. In fact, made in Korea, that makes sense. So these kind of err a little closer to powder. They have that putty consistency, but you see in the swatches as you blend it out, it completely blurs underneath, and you can very easily build up a lot of pigment with this if you want, or you can get a very light blurred wash all over the cheek. So I just love how customizable this is. Very, very high quality product, pretty unique to the market at Sephora, and just overall a really well done formula if you're into the putty style blushes, which I normally am not, but Rare Beauty did it so right that it ended up being one of my favorite blushes. Now, powder blushes, my first favorite formula, probably the #1 favorite formula that I tried this year, are the Make Me blushes from YSL. These are very silky in the way that they roll over the cheeks, and then the color range that the brand has is also very gorgeous. And I started off as a luxury beauty makeup reviewer. I've then shifted more so into Sephora, high-end, and I'll cover some drugstore products, but I used to be almost strictly luxury, but there came a point where I felt like the prices were so expensive and I wasn't getting luxury performing products. Like, I could get them at a lower price point, so I slowed that down. But I know what I'm looking for when it comes to a luxury brand and the quality that I want, and that's what I get from these blushes, beginning with the experience of the packaging all the way to how this applies without having to dig into the product, but you can blend it out if you apply too much, and then the shades that they offer are also really gorgeous. So this to me has been a luxury splurge that is worth it. Everything about these blushes I love. The last blush that I have for today, this has very terrible packaging for some reason, but phenomenal product inside. I've been loving a more glowy blush this year, which I didn't think I would, but I really do. These are the Say Super Suede Radiant blush powders. The packaging is so plasticky and cheap. They're so lucky that the formula in here is stunning because it is a baked blush. So it's similar to Hourglass, which you know is my favorite formula. So it gives that not flat, but also not super shimmery look on the cheek, and I just love the shades that I have. Bella I used today on the tip of my cheeks, or the apple I guess, but I really love Mia for an everyday kind of peachy look. And I like a powder blush, don't get me wrong, I like a cream blush too, but a pearly glowy powder blush, it just blurs the cheek a little bit more, even if it does have a little bit of extra glow to it, and it lasts longer, sets everything in, and I think the formula and finish of these are so stunning. So if you like that pearly finish to the cheek like myself, I definitely recommend trying that formula, especially if you're oily, but not even. I'm dry. I still like it. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a yearly favorites video without me mentioning the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Palettes, where you get a little bit of every formula. I purchase these every single year because they are my go-to face palette. They have my all-time favorite face powders, ranging from bronzer to blush to highlight to their super special Hourglass Filter Ambient Lighting Setting Powder, which that's what the Morphe reminds me of, but Hourglass has a extra little oomph. They're different. They're different. But anyways, yeah, I'll continue to use these throughout the year as I continue grabbing, because these are my all-time favorite powders, because they just apply so nicely to the face. They look beautiful. They have that filter to the skin, and nobody does it like Hourglass. They really are an undupable formula. This year, the Swan was my favorite. I've talked enough about these, but if we're doing the end of year roundup, it's not a roundup if I don't add those in. And then to finish off our complexion category, we have setting sprays. There's two. To no surprise to you, they're going to be on the glowier side because that's what I was really into this year. So the first one that we have is the One Size Powder Melt Glass Setting Spray. I feel like this one absorbs into the makeup versus the next one that I'm mentioning, which kind of finishes off on top of the makeup. But if you want something to melt in the powders and just make them nice and rehydrated, since I am someone with dry skin who likes powders, sometimes you need a spray to make your makeup kind of settle into the skin better and become more flexible. That is what I use this for. So this kind of enhances and melts into my base. But when I want purely glass finish, this is like an over-the-top filter spray situation. This is from Pat McGrath Labs. It's the Glass 001 Legendary Setting Spray. Don't know how she managed to do it, but it does set the face like glass without looking oily. So this will completely enhance and finish off the skin with a glassy but not oily or heavy feeling glow. It is quite phenomenal. So obviously I was a little bit more into the glowy look and finish this year, and these are two setting sprays that actually give performance and results right away, which is what a lot of setting sprays cannot do. Which brings us to the eye category this year, which is very, very small. And I think that checks out because eyes was not a huge category this year. Now, I am not featuring any eyeshadow palettes in today's video because I will have a top 10 eyeshadow palettes for the year coming out very, very soon. So no surprises, okay? We're gonna go into like the other individual products because you know what? I actually have stepped away from eyeshadow palettes anyways this year and have been enjoying more single products. And then my eyebrows, I did not venture off into anything new this year. I'm still using my Rare Beauty eyebrow gel and then whatever eyebrow pencil I can get a hold of. But I have been enjoying a lot of individual eyeshadow stick products, cream shadows, liquid shadows. So these are the best of the best. First of all, Makeup by Mario. They launched the Master Mattes Long Wear Cream Eyeshadow. And if you are scared of liquid slash cream shadow being difficult to work with, trust me, these will blend out just as easily as your favorite powder formulation with no fallout, completely mess-free. These have like a moussey consistency to them, and I don't know how they did it with this formula, but they blend out to look quite airbrushed. So if you are not a master blender, it doesn't matter. These will look like a well-blended powder eyeshadow despite them being a liquid. And the colors that he has are very basic and matte, but honestly they're very, very flattering. We have a lot of different undertones. For today's look, I used mauve in my crease, and then I put a little bit of blush all over my eyelid. Like I said, they just work out great like a powder eyeshadow. These last a long time. They don't feel thick, so they don't crease either, because that's a problem that I've had with formulas like this in the past, that they're too thick and creamy. And especially if you have oily eyelids, that sometimes shadows like these can crease. That doesn't happen with these. They just like dry down like a powder. In fact, they might even last longer and set down better than a powder eyeshadow could or ever would. So these are very, very surprisingly easy to work with, even when it comes to adding and blending and mixing other shades. Really, really impressed with those. And you know, days that I just want mess free, I don't want any powder fallout, I will use those because you don't get any mess over here. Eyeshadow sticks, I'm still very, very devoted to my Laura Mercier, but I discovered an eyeshadow stick, particularly, I would say I'm talking more so about the color than the entire range, but this is the only one I have to speak on. So maybe the entire range is as amazing, but I know that the Too Faced Quickie Queen Cream Eyeshadow Stick in the shade Fairy Dust just does it for me. I think one of the biggest challenges when it comes to eyeshadow sticks is getting a proper gleam down, just getting that glow that you can't get unless you are using a powder eyeshadow. Powder eyeshadows are the best for getting something super metallic. Cream sticks, they struggle in that category. But Fairy Dust here, baby, she's metallic. I mean, this is such a stunning, stunning shade. I have it all over my eyelids. Again, you're not going to get any mess with this. That is part of the beauty of this formula. As you can see, it doesn't crease. It is a gorgeous formula, a gorgeous color. So if you're into eyeshadow sticks like me and you're looking for a metallic finish that's actually high quality and gives you that gleam, you're going to get it from this. So I wanted to mention that. This has been one of my favorites. You can use it in the inner corner, all over the eyelids. Sometimes I'd use it along my whole lower lash line for a really glowy, ethereal look. So, so good. Eyeliner category. This is a category of makeup that I've really changed over the years how I use and what I use. I use a lot of just eyeshadow nowadays, but days that I don't want, again, the fallout from the powders, I have really gotten into pencil liners this year. And I used to not be a pencil liner fan, but here I am. I enjoy the softer look that they give. I like when I can blend them in with shadow, soften them up a little bit. I don't need a harsh black liquid line that I felt like I needed years ago. So two formulas that I fell in love with this year. This first one is from Makeup by Mario. It's his Master Pigment Pro Pencil. I love these because they are rich in pigment, but you have playtime with these to smudge them out, and then when they set, they set. So it's the best of every situation when it comes to these pencils. He did extend his color range this year as well, but overall very easy to work with, intense in pigment, lasts a long time. So that's why I'm reaching for these. Today, I use just the Perfect Brown shade, which is a very nice, deep chocolate brown shade. And then black eyeliner can be tricky. You want to be careful. You don't want to, have raccoon eyes at the end of the day, which is why I really fell in love with the Hongdiango along the lash line longwear eyeliner. This is extremely, extremely black. So I'm not using this on an everyday occasion, but when I know I want a black eyeliner on the waterline, I go for this because this is as deep black as it can get. And it does not move, it does not smudge. Now, the one caveat to that is it's not as smudgeable as the Makeup by Mario, but that's okay because I like this in my waterline anyways. So what I do when I want that really deep, dark waterline, I'll put this in and then I'll take a black or brown shadow and kind of smudge it out a little bit along the lower lash line, and I'm set for the day. So this has been great for very, very specific looks. I need to pick this up in brown and see what I think about this formula. I don't know if I'd love it as much. I specifically love it as a black eyeliner. I don't know how I'd feel about it as a brown eyeliner since I like a more smudgy look when it comes to brown. And this particular formula is not great for smudgy, but we'll see. As a black, it's incredible. And then for mascaras, there are two incredible ones. Makeup by Mario, they've just been killing it this year. I really did love their Master Mascara in Super Black. It's really lightweight on the lashes and it holds a curl. It builds volume. It has definition. It has everything I want in a mascara. Recently I was playing around doing my friend's makeup and I used this mascara on her and she was like, "What is that mascara? It's incredible." It did look incredible on her lashes and she has eyelashes, unlike me. It looked incredible on her. So I can confirm it makes my lashes look good. Who's not working with Maj? It makes my friend's lashes, who has lashes, look incredible. So if you like one that's lighter weight and holds a curl but gives a little bit of everything, you'll love this. Doesn't smudge. And then this is a new discovery, but oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with it. It's my new favorite drugstore mascara. It has to be. This is a L'Oreal Extensionist Telescopic Mascara. Did not expect much of this when I tried it, but it is incredible. It actually gives me lashes. Okay, right now as I'm talking, I do have falsies on. But when I don't put on falsies, this makes my lashes look incredible in that it gives me lashes. It gives me lift. It gives me separation. It gives me length Oh yeah, it also holds a curl all day. It doesn't flake, but honestly it's a little difficult to get off. But if we put that aside, if you have smaller lashes, I really love the wand of this. It's really, really small as well. So it really does allow you to get in every hair, which I hate mascaras with too big of wands and my little eyes and my little lashes. It can't hit all of the areas. This one can. Moving on to the lips category, and I have to admit, the lips category is the category of makeup launches this year that annoyed me the most. I was getting irritated because I feel like every brand was launching the exact same lip product and all of them were mushing together and the same to me. I wasn't noticing any difference in the formulas. Everything did the exact same thing. I'm not saying that the formulas were bad, but it was like I was so bored with the lip launches that I was just using my basic products that I always reach for. So it's a lacking category this year, but these are the ones that actually stood out because everybody else was launching the same stuff. These are actually really, really, really good products. So we'll start off with lip liners. I tried the new lip liner in both formula and color, but I'm talking specifically about this color. This is a Lisa Eldridge Sculpt and Shade Lip Pencil, specifically in the shade 01. This is that perfect background contour shade that's going to look good with any lip color. It's literally a lip contour with a little extra oomph because it's not fully super natural, but this will make your lips look super plump. It's that perfect shadow, that perfect shade. Really nice, high quality lip liner formula. It doesn't necessarily set down. You have room and time to blend it out, smudge it out, but it's not going to get heavy or catch on the dry patches on the lips, which I definitely have a lot of. So this was my favorite lip liner I discovered this year. And then I had a little bit of a rediscovery of a lip liner formula that I really love. Now, I'm a huge fan typically of gel lip liners. I'm picky, but I like them when they are creamy to apply but set down. And I fell off a little bit of regular pencils, but I'm back on like wooden pencils. And I really like the MAC ones. I mean, these have been around for forever, but they also have a great range of shades. Today, the one that I demoed was Whirl. I mean, I've used these for years, but, you know, comparing these to a lot of other wooden pencils, these actually have great longevity. In my head, normally it's really the gel liners that are going to give you the longevity, but these, surprisingly, for being flexible, powdery, blendable, these last a very, very long time, even though they don't set down like a gel liner. And so the benefit of wooden versus gel is that you can reapply these. You know, you're able to blend these. You have that flexibility. You can layer them throughout the day a little bit easier than what you can with a gel, but these actually have pretty good lasting power as well. So go figure. MAC lip liners, they're still amazing. No lipsticks, surprisingly. I really liked CoverGirl lipsticks, but anyways, I was still using like Charlotte Tilbury, things like that for bullet lipsticks. But I have like some glossy style products. So first, this is a balm and gloss hybrid. And I don't really have a formula like this that I love as much as these. These are the Too Faced Pillow Balm lip treatments. These are extremely hydrating, but they actually give a really good amount of color. They feel very plush on the lips, and they're not super glossy, but I don't need that. I like that these are more plush and hydrating on the lips. So the shades that I love the most, the one that I demoed was Pink Pineapple Kiss. I also really love Hot Cocoa Kiss, which smells like hot cocoa. But I also really liked Cranberry Crush, just very close to my natural lip color. So these were great everyday lip colors because they're extremely hydrating. They truly do have that balm quality, but they actually give pigment, which is something that has made me mad this year. A lot of these hybrid products, they have all of these shades and then they all pull very clear on the lips. Those actually give color, so I really love those. They feel phenomenal on the lips, extremely hydrating. And then a new gloss formula that I discovered that I love this year is from Jane Iredale. These are their Color Luxe High Impact Lip Glaze. Again, they do have clear shades, but these are actually going to give you a lot of color. I demoed the shade Cherry Noir, which looks intimidating. You'll see it gives the perfect amount of pigment. Honestly, a gorgeous holiday lip. These are also quite hydrating on the lips, and they have a lot of shine. They fill in the lines of the lips. And my favorite everyday shade, I love Au Naturel. And no, it's not clear. You know how these pinky shades can sometimes be clear? This actually gives the prettiest everyday natural lip color. Very comfortable. They have a little bit of tack to them, which I like, but they're not sticky. So they're going to last a long time without your hair sticking to them. Just an all-around phenomenal gloss formulation. They're not messing around by saying it's an oil hybrid, it's a balm hybrid. No, it's just a good classic milky full coverage gloss formulation. Not sticky, but has thickness. Love this gloss formula. And then the other gloss formula that I tried that really stood out this year, I use them all the time. These were like my purse lip glosses because they're so small. I've done 2 videos on these, both of which I've swatched all of the shades that I own. So if you want lip swatches, that's available to you. But I love the Fui 3D Voluming glosses. Incredible. So these are unique because they come in a 30% and 70% pigment level. So depending on what shade, you can choose if you want a more sheer color or a more full pigment color, which I think is really fun and unique. No other brand has done that before. So besides having that option of picking how much pigment you want, these are also the wettest, most reflective glosses I've come across. It's insane. So that's why I've been reaching for them. They smell really, really good. And then you have that awesome 30-70% pigment level that you can choose from. The fall colors that came out were really, really fun. They were like a cherry cola collection. I demoed the cherry cola color, both in the 30 and 70%, so you can see, because it is legit. Like, they do have different pigment levels, but if you love a glassy, jelly-looking gloss, Fui did an amazing job with that. They're having trouble standing straight up, though. Okay, I'm just gonna give this a shout out, like, because this is very, very biased of me, but I also wasn't messing around with too many lips because I was using my own lip collection that came out with Odin's Eye this year with my Love Language collection that I did for them. My eyeshadow palette, gone. She sold out. Thank you for that. But low-key, the lips. I love the lip collection that I did. I've been wearing, obviously, them constantly. So these were the ones I used most. And these are not sold out if you're interested, if you want them. But I'm not going to talk about them too much because it's too self-promo-y. But that's what I was wearing. And I just love the shades that I picked for those. And lastly, I do have a couple skincare favorites. There's a lot of skincare favorites. Like, I could do a whole video on body skincare, fragrance, all of that. But I did want to pick just a couple of skincare stuff for today's video. Did not introduce a ton of new skincare products this year because I was pregnant and my skin was super duper sensitive, you guys. I had to like stick to a routine. It only just recently got to a point where I can go back to testing to how I used to, but yeah, I could only use like 2 skincare products on my face for a bit there without my skin going haywire with all the hormones. But one of the new skincare products, one of the few new skincare products that I introduced into my routine this year was the Caudalie Beauty Elixir. So this is a spray where it can tone, it can be before makeup, it can add a glow. I like this as a toner. That's how I've been using it. I feel like it just refreshes my skin and tightens the pores. So I've been using it as the toner portion of my skincare routine. And I mean, I think my skin has been looking really, really good since using this. I think my skin looks fresher and the pores are just, everything looks a little tighter to me. And yeah, we're literally down here. So I already have my backup ready to go of this, but I did not try a ton of new skincare this year because of my situation and my skin situation. But this was one of the very few new products I introduced that stuck into my routine. And this is a classic. This has been around for forever. And then this one, amazing. It is a makeup remover spray. This is from Hard Candy. And it's basically just a makeup remover in a spray bottle, but genius. I will just spray this every night and then I'll use my makeup wipe and wipe off the rest. And I feel like it just loosens everything up so you don't have to be so rough on your skin with makeup remover. So I do this as an oil layer to break everything down, and it's is phenomenal. I mean, it's a product that I got in PR. I was like, okay, what's this? And then I started using it, and as you can see, it has integrated itself into my evening routine. So I did want to share this. This will help dissolve your makeup a lot easier and pretty mess free, because you don't even need to like lather the oil and put it on your skin. You just spray it. So I love not having to get my hands dirty because of that. Okay, wow, we did that. Those were my favorite makeup products, with a couple of little skincare doodads because I wanted to, even though I want to mention more, but we gotta go. But there we are, my favorite makeup products for 2025 from somebody who has tested hundreds. These are the standout products, the products that I stand by and recommend for you. So as always, I will have all of the products that I mentioned linked down below for you guys to check out. If you've tried out any of these products and you love them, let me know. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? That's okay too. And of course, if there's any favorites that I missed that you feel are so amazing that I need to try or I need to add, you let me know down below. What were you loving this year? Stay tuned. We have more favorites coming with eyeshadows. We have worst makeup. It's roundup time, baby, aka very stressful for an indecisive gal like me, but here we are. 'Tis the season. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me this year, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys, have a good one.